We've all been there, coming up with what seems like the perfect idea. And it's so good. Only to hit a wall when we try and refine it because we're dealing with it by ourselves, or maybe we share it with a friend and they're like, I'm not really sure this is your best work. What if the key to true innovation and success lies not in the idea itself, but in the question we ask next? By pushing ourselves to dig deeper and ask, what else you got? We can unlock potential we never knew existed, leading to better, more creative solutions and a higher level of success. Now, if that's something you're interested in, stick around for this episode of the Fallible Man Podcast. I promise it's a discussion worth having. Here's the million-dollar question. How do men like us reach our full potential, growing to the men we dream of becoming while taking care of our responsibilities, working, living, being good husbands, fathers, and still take care of ourselves? Well, that's the big question, and in this podcast, we'll help you with those answers and more. My name is Brent, and welcome to the Fallible Man Podcast. Now, some of you are familiar with the year 1998. I think is a valuable year because it's the year I graduated high school, but it turns out there was some other stuff going on that year besides my graduation that actually may be a little more relevant. Turns out in 98, two buddies were just riffing on ideas for businesses on their way to the job they didn't love so much because they were dreaming about something a little bigger. One of them threw out the idea, hey, how about personalized shampoo? The other said, what else you got? Yeah. Personalized dog food? What else you got? What else you got may seem like an uneven or an unwelcome answer. It could even seem unkind depending on your perspective on who's talking to you at the time. We tend to want to think that all of our ideas are diamonds, whether they're horse poop or just a shiny rock. Our ideas seem great in the moment, but they're not always the best ideas necessarily. Now, it turns out that these two gentlemen were brainstorming, and they went on to create a company you may have heard of. Netflix. Maybe you're familiar with their work. They tend to be some kind of name in movies or something. I don't know. The important thing to take out of that whole conversation was don't fall in love with your first idea. Turns out if you chase the rabbit trail, your ideas get better, not worse, as you continue down the line. In fact, science supports that while some people are like, oh, I just get stressed out and if I keep going, my ideas just become crap. The science doesn't support that. No, I'm not talking about the science you heard about a couple years ago. I'm talking about actual science has shown us that while it may not get better, it doesn't get worse. And a lot of times, if you chase that rabbit trail a little farther, your creative juices start flowing a little more and you actually get a lot better ideas. By the way, my name's Brent and welcome to the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for all things man. Big shout out to Fallible Nation. That's our longtime listeners, and a warm welcome to our first time listeners. Thanks for giving us a chance. I know there's a lot competing for your attention. So from the bottom of my heart, I really do appreciate you checking us out. Be sure and connect with me at the Fallible Man on most social media platforms. I'm particularly active on Instagram, and there you can connect with me. Let me know what you thought of the episode. And if you really get something out of this episode, we'd love for you to give us a review. But moreover, I'd love for you to share with this with somebody else that you think it might help, because that's the most powerful thing you can do with my show. I'm in the business of helping men grow into their best selves. And the more men we can reach, because you shared the show, the better as far as I'm concerned. So think about it. But, I know I haven't sold you the house yet because we still got a lot to talk about. But if you're interested in success in your life, then this is something we need to dig into a little bit more. Now, this concept was a really difficult one for me to kind of wrap my head around, guys. As a creative, as a designer, someone who's frequently a leader, this one was kind of hard to swallow. Okay. I've done graphic design, website design, all kinds of things in the design world for a very long time now. And I always think my ideas are pretty great. They're not always pretty great. I know this, but I always didn't think they are. But this is one of the most valuable and difficult lessons I ever had to learn. For example, when I designed the logo for my company, I've actually been through 5 variations of our logo because I've evolved mentally in the way I look at what we're trying to do. But the last time I actually submitted my idea and a couple different proofs of that idea to a council of colleagues that I have, a business mastermind with a group of men and women that I trust almost more than anybody on this kind of decision, people with varying understandings and experience and knowledge of business. And the combined insight I get from those people is powerful in my business. Now, despite the painstaking hours I put into designing my logo, and you may look at it and be like, my 2-year-old could have drawn that. I actually accepted their suggestions and their ideas, and I changed my logo based on the design suggestions feedback that they gave me. And it was hard, gentlemen, to swallow my pride. I didn't like all the changes. I didn't agree with all the changes, but I followed their advice because I trust them and I trust them with input on my business. Now, as a designer, I don't agree with all of my clients. I don't understand and probably will never understand why someone pays an expert designer then tells them how they should do it. Right? I understand that people have an idea in their head and they just don't know how to get it down. However, there are things, if you can't get it down on paper or on a design sheet, that you probably don't know how to do, some insights, some ideas. And so not only do you pay someone to put your idea on paper, you actually pay somebody to make it better. However, I design something, then the client makes me get rid of all the unique design features and the elements that really make it pop and stand out one by one. And I end up turning over something that any 14-year-old with a Canva account could do most of the time, because people have this picture in their head and they want their picture, not a better version of it. So what's this have to do with you? Nah, I'm not just ranting. I promise this isn't me just complaining about my clients. I'm very blessed and I have some amazing clients, but whether you're coming up with a plan for a family trip or even a night out, planning something related to work, maybe a big project at work or a side project, maybe just planning date night with your spouse, or a gift idea. This one's big for me. A gift idea for someone you care about. Learn to ask yourself this single valuable question. What else you got? That one simple question has the ability to grow you as a man, as a leader, as a husband, and as a father, because it's asking you to go beyond the easy and let your brain do more work. Whether you're planning a project at work or organizing the family event or just brainstorming your next big idea, don't settle for the first thought that comes to mind. It's really easy to do. And unlike a test, the first thing that comes to mind isn't always the right answer. Right? Research has taught us that 90% of the time on a test, the first answer that comes, if you've been studying, the first answer that pops in your mind is usually right. That's not the case with ideas. Okay? Embrace the challenge of asking yourself, what else you got? The simple yet powerful question can push you to discover ideas and solutions that are far better than you ever imagined or than you started with. It helps you grow as a leader, as a husband, and ultimately as a man and father, and all those other aspects of your life, because you took a few minutes and instead of just going with the knee-jerk reaction, you bothered to ask yourself, what else you got? It will move mountains in your life. If you can get past that first half-assed answer, You may even surprise yourself at the brilliance you can come up with if you just let your mind warm up and get going, guys. If you want success, like really want success, learn to push and prod yourself. Men thrive with a little bit of pressure, so put a little pressure on yourself to give a little more, to do a little more work, to think a little harder and come up with a better idea. It's in there. I know you've got it. And that one simple question can take you to a whole nother level in so many aspects of your life. Guys, for more tips like this, be sure to sign up for our newsletter down in the show notes or description, whatever platform you're with us on. It's a bi-weekly newsletter, guys. I don't spam your inbox, but I have content that only comes out on my newsletter. I love writing my newsletter, so I put a lot of love and care in it. And so there's a lot of curated content that only goes to the people sign up for my newsletter. Find out what else is going on with the Fallible Man. Be the first to hear about new news, new projects, new releases. And as always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today. We'll see you soon.
This has been the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for everything man, husband, and father. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a show. Head over to www.thefallibleman.com for more content and get your own Fallible Man gear.